Chapter 116. Promotion to 9 revolutions. Yes, the Shenta family disciple outside the door led the order to leave. In the house, Shenta Hong once again resumed the majesty of the family head and said to Shen Tipeng, who was beside him, "We don't need to care about GRS matters. Tomorrow you will go to the Yun family and hand over the 3 extremely high-grade spirit stones to the Overlord. In addition, it's time to prepare for the 3 families meeting. And let Fenga take that water spirit fruit. It should be able to promote him to the 3rd level of the Jiden stage." Yes, Shen Tipeng nodded, and then left the Zhou mansion. Although the Zhou family was not one of the 3 great families of Demon Yuan City, its power was not trivial, second only to the 3 great families, and some people even secretly called them the 4th family now. At this moment, Zhou Yunji and Zhou Chanshu were reporting to the family head, Zhou Chonju, about the competition for the water spirit fruit in the Bian pool. Like Shen Tahong, although Zhou Chonju was surprised by Kang Chon's unexpected appearance, he was very satisfied with Zhou Yunji's handling of the matter and agreed to hand over 3 extreme spirit stones to Kang Chon, as well as ordering Zhou Yunji to pull his strings with Kang Chon. "Don't worry, father. These things will be taken care of by my son," Zhou Yunji said with a smile. Zhou Chonju and Zhou Chanshu on the side nodded. They didn't have the slightest doubt about Zhou Yunji's ability and wisdom. In fact, today's Zhou clan had all the big and small things handled by Zhou Yunji, and Zhou Chonju was only asking questions above the big things. Among the younger generation of Demon Yuan City, I'm afraid that only Zhou Yunji was the earliest to take power in the family. Even the 3 great families were envious of the Zhou family for being able to have such a son. "Father is very relieved that Jia is doing something." Zhou Chonju smiled readily, now that the Zhou family's business was flourishing and his son was so capable. He no longer had the slightest concern. "Right, father. The 3 families meeting is coming up. Should our Zhou family make a move?" Zhou Yunji suddenly asked. Demon Yuan City's workshop market had traditionally been controlled by the 3 great families and the City Lord's Mansion, with the benefits of the workshop market having the City Lord's Mansion occupying 50% of it, and the remaining 50% being shared equally by the 3 great families. However, the 3 great clans were not willing to share equally, so they set up the agreement of the 3 clans meeting. The content of the agreement is that the remaining 50% of the benefits of the market, of which 30% of the family, 10% equal share. The remaining 20% of the benefits will be determined by the results of the 3 families will be martial arts. According to the winner of the match, the first place family would own 50% of the remaining 20%. The second place would have 30%, and the last place would only have 20%. This pact was formed because the 3 major families were not convinced by each other at the time, so they used this way to compete in secret. Although these 3 clans would have no relationship with the Zhou family, but looking at the huge benefits of that workshop in Demon Yuan City, the Zhou family was naturally unwilling, and they also wanted to intervene. After all, in the cultivation world, it was still the one who was powerful who occupied more resources, obviously. Now that the Zhou family was powerful, they naturally needed to seize some necessary resources. Zhou Chonju heard the words, pondered for a moment, then looked at Zhou Yunji, who was full of expectation, shook his head and said, "Jia, in terms of heritage, our Zhou family is still not as good as the 3 great families. I'm afraid that wanting to intervene in the interests of the workshop market is not possible right now. If they join forces and attack, then that would be my Zhou family's doom. You have to be patient, knowing that the truly strong ones are those who will laugh in the end." Zhou Yunji was a little reluctant, but he understood the importance of the situation and nodded his head. "Father, it is still you who has a point. In that case, our Zhou family will wait for some time, the interests of that workshop market. Sooner or later, Our Zhou family will have to intervene. There is no need to rush. My son has such a heart. My father is very pleased. Zhou Chunju smiled at his words. Then, after a moment of deep thought, he said, "If you want to meddle in the interests of the three great clans, relying on our Zhou family alone is not going to work by any means. You need to borrow strength to do so. Don't worry about this, father. My son has long been prepared, as early as 3 years ago. I secretly contacted some of the small forces in Demon Yuan City, although they are not strong. But when gathered together, they are also an important force," Zhou Yunji said. "Jia, you are saving for a rainy day. My father is very happy. But a small force is still a small force. If our Zhou family wants to become the fourth largest family, we must have the support of one of the three largest families before we can do so. Otherwise the name will not be correct." A glimmer of light appeared in the eyes of Zhou Chunju. But although the three great families are constantly at war with each other, they will still unite against the intrusion of outside forces. Zhou Yunji had a headache. He actually had an idea long ago. But the three great families all looked down on their Zhou family. None of them were willing to interact with their Zhou family. Joint, they ostracize our Zhou family. In the end, it's not about preserving their interests. As long as we are able to make them gain enough benefits, this kind of union will not break down. Zhou Chunju sneered. "So, father, that senior Wu is a dark move you've played, right?" Zhou Yunji said with a smile. Zhou Chunju similarly laughed. "Jia, you see, that person was indeed sent by me to help the Zhong family seize the water spirit fruit. I just didn't expect this to happen in the end. But no matter what, this time, the Zhong family owes us the Zhou family a favor. It's a pity that the overlord was killed halfway. Otherwise, if we let Zhong Tianhao rob the Yun family sisters, the Yun family would definitely be in a deadly battle with the Zhong family. Then it would be a good opportunity for my Zhou family to rise," Zhou Yunji sighed. "HMPH. Since the heavens are going to allow the overlord to appear at this time, it means that their Zhong family is not worthy of those two stunning double beauties. In that case, we will change our plan and you, Jia, will pursue either of the Yun sisters," Zhou Chunju said, and then looked at Zhou Yunji with an apologetic face. "My father knows that you've always liked the Yun family's eldest girl, but for the sake of the family's interests, you've always kept this relationship hidden in your heart. So today, my father will fulfill you both." "Many thanks, father." Zhou Yunji was instantly thrilled at his words. Cloud Mansion, in a small quiet courtyard. This was where Kangchon resided. Suddenly, a refreshing fragrance drifted out from Kangchon's house. And with the breeze, this fragrance instantly spread throughout the quiet little courtyard. "Ha ha ha, boy, finally refined, you hurry to take it. This kind of elixir will lose a lot of its potency if it is left for a long time." Inside the house, a pale old laughter came out. Inside the house, Kangchon woke up from his cultivation. He sniffed and couldn't wait to receive a golden pill handed over by the Dan Emperor. At once, a refreshing fragrance came to his nose, and his entire being was shaken in spirit. "This is the wall-breaking pill." Kangchon carefully surveyed the elixir in his hand. The excised elixir, but it was permeated with a refreshing aroma that made people smell it. The surface of the elixir was surrounded by spiritual qi, and the faint golden light appeared incomparably bright. Although Kangchon was not an alchemist, but just by looking at the color and fragrance of this elixir, he knew that this elixir was not trivial, and that it would be difficult for an ordinary alchemist to refine it. He couldn't help but secretly rejoice. Fortunately, he had the presence of a Dan Dao master like Emperor Dan by his side. Truly an old man in the family has a treasure. By taking this elixir, you brat will be able to break through the 9th term. It's been almost 3 years. 3 years ago you hadn't built a foundation. Now you're about to step into the Jidan stage. Emperor Dan smiled and said. His heart could not help but feel some emotion. It was 3 years in a flash. 3 years ago Kangchon was nothing more than a brat. Now Kangchon has slowly grown up. 9 revolutions realm. I'm finally stepping into this realm. Kang Chon looked at the wall-breaking pill in his hand. A blazing light flashed in his eyes. After 3 years of hard work, he had finally reached this step today. From the family change in Heavy Iron City, to the fame in Fengdu City, to the 1 year of realizing his sword in the forest of demonic beasts, Kang Chon's mind was becoming more and more pure. He was no longer the genius waste that everyone called him, but the now famous overlord of the great Tangyi Kang Chon. Wall-breaking Dan, don't let me down. Kang Chon murmured and swallowed the elixir in his hand in one gulp. Then he closed his eyes and quietly felt the power of the elixir. The wall-breaking pill instantly melted in his mouth, and the enormous energy contained within it instantly surged down Kang Chon's throat, passing through a wide meridian and converging towards Kang Chon's dungeon. Kang Chon's body was originally filled with surging silver-colored true essence, and now that this huge energy suddenly attacked, the two energies collided at once, and at this time, Kang Chon fully operated the Heaven's Path Heart technique and began to refine this huge energy with all his might. With the loss of time, a pure energy was refined into silver-colored true essence, and in this way, the silver-colored true essence in Kang Chon's body became more and more, while Kang Chon himself had already reached the peak of the 8th turn realm. Adding more true essence at this time, however, gave him the feeling that he was about to explode. This time was very dangerous. Kang Chon tightly guarded his mind and began to fully suppress his true essence, just like seeming to deaden some rotten mud, pressing it into dry mud, and finally near solid. And at this time, Kang Chon's body's silver true essence has begun to emerge, a trace of golden true essence, although very little, but can be clearly seen inwardly. Kang Chon's heart was instantly overjoyed. He knew that he was getting closer and closer to the 9 revolutions realm, and as long as he continued to suppress his true essence, the golden true essence would grow more and more. Originally, to break through to the 9 revolutions, Kang Chon would perhaps take half a year, but now, with the energy of the wall-breaking pill, he would be able to impact the 9 revolutions realm immediately. 9th turn he break for me. Kang Chon secretly clenched his teeth and desperately suppressed the true essence in his body. The Kang Chon hegemony blood in his body all completely boiled, as if it were boiling water, emitting a mysterious and inexplicable power. Along with the boiling of the Kang Chon hegemony blood, the surface of Kang Chon's body began to emit a faint purple light, like a purple film of light that wrapped him inside. Outside, Emperor Dan was astonished when he saw this scene. What a marvelous Kang Chon hegemony blood, worthy of being a legendary special bloodline. This terrifying talent is truly frightening, Emperor Dan sighed. At this moment, the golden true essence in Kang Chon's body was already growing, gradually occupying half of the country. The other half of the silver true essence was still being swallowed by the golden true essence, despite his best efforts to resist. With the loss of time, the golden true essence completely gained the upper hand and had spread to most of the meridians in Kang Chon's body, and those remaining silver true essence were driven to the remote corners and were finally completely devoured by the golden true essence. At the next moment, Kang Chon violently opened his eyes, and two golden rays of light immediately came out from within his eyes. Roar! Kang Chon couldn't help but let out a low roar as his body was filled with a powerful strength, giving him a general feeling of wanting to explode. Finally, Kang Chon rushed out of the house and stood in the courtyard, roaring towards the sky. His entire body emitted a piercing golden light, and an invincible, overbearing intent rose up to the sky, instantly startling the entire cloud mansion. This kid made such a big commotion. Someone will be here soon, Emperor Dan secretly said in his heart. Then he rolled up the reverse heavenly cauldron and returned back to Kang Chon's dungeon. And at this moment, the energy within Kang Chon's body was still spewing out unceasingly, forming a golden defense circle outside his body. In the sky, Kang Chon's hegemonic intent grew stronger and stronger, and in the end, It even broke through from 10% intent to while intent. Immediately, the pressure emanating from this hegemonic intent became even stronger, and everyone in the cloud mansion, except for the Yuanying stage experts, were overwhelmed by this pressure.